my case, they had, those youth, again, you gotta love them to really try anything. They sued the state of Pennsylvania because their dormitories were awful. And they came to the office and asked if we'd arrange a meeting with the chancellor of Pennsylvania State University of Higher Education. So we did. And they presented the facts that Cheney University for over 3 decades had been getting less per capita, per student, than any of the other 10 universities. They got their dorms redone. They also got a STEM building to bring together all their physics and math and all those kind of courses. I bring that up because my experience has been that sometimes I think Democrats have a labeling problem. And I bring this up because I always felt we need to be like Ronald Reagan, the shining city on the hill, or something like that. And I bring this up in this discriminatory way, whether it's conscious or unconscious, because I just think we have to have the labeling done right. So, for example, when critical race theory came out, I can remember Tucker Carlson saying, I don't watch Tucker Carlson, okay, but I remember him saying in the newspaper, I've been arguing about critical race theory for over a year, but to be honest with you, I still don't understand what it is. We have critical race theory, it's in a sense in the Navy. It was a phrase that was established by Admiral Hyman Rickover, first Jewish admiral we had, the father of the nuclear navy. And what he would say before any officer went to a nuclear ship at sea, and you know how everybody is, I mean, when I put my head down on an aircraft carrier, 75 feet from me was the reactor. And so what he would say to the officers who ran this is, expect what you inspect. For unwarranted biases or bad practices may be slipping in, even unconsciously. Expect what you inspect. So what do I mean by that as far as critical race theory? Take kidneys. First organ ever transplanted in America. And so when they established the National Organ Transplant Program, somebody, when they did it, said the black man has more body mass and it secretes more amino acid creatine than the white man. And therefore, when we put those two onto the waiting list, which determines when you get that kidney for a life-saving operation, we've got to take away the advantage of the black man because he can wait longer. So they put an 18% modifier into the algorithm, which means they had to delay the black man 6 to 7 years. Now, it may not be as bad, you might think, as last time we hung a black man in this United States of America in 1950, where he stole $1.50 from a white woman, sentenced to hang, went all the way to the Georgia State Supreme Court. They affirmed the sentencing to be hung because they pointed to the extenuating circumstance of the white woman's statement that the man had been disrespectful to her when he took $1.50 out of her purse. But yet, is what I was talking about in the kidney incident really that different? They discovered it was a mistake and bogus to have done that in 1993. You know when they finally changed it? 2 years ago. How many men did we execute who were black? That's kind of, to me, all critical race theory was. Look at the system, see what's there, you don't even know it. Expect what you inspect, but then be accountable. And Joanne and Louis, that brings me to you, if you haven't fallen asleep. I bring that up because, Joanne, where is she?
She's right here.
You're like my daughter when I used to speak. She used to just go, is that you have accountability written all over you. Closing slush funds,
Thank you.
setting up a hotline for fraud, redoing the controller's office. But my favorite is how you and your compatriots took that private county jail, and took it out of private hands and put it under the county. Why? I mean, I could say you're like a mom, you know?
I am.
It's like, doing all the work as a mom, nobody notices until you stop doing it. Thank the Lord, you're gonna continue on doing it on the county council. That said, there's another mom I'd like to tell you about. African-American mom who came into our office during that meltdown of the recession. Her son had died in that jail. Under circumstances nobody could have. And at the time, some of you remember Charlie Sexton? The first call I made the morning after I won. I knew he was Marine Corps. I called him up. I said, "Hey, Charlie, this is Joe Sesta." And he said, "What the F do you want?" That isn't being recorded, is it? I love Charlie. I still talk to him about every 3 months, call him up, see how his thing is. But if I really needed to, the Republicans as well as, not only Dems, the Republicans lived here, but I needed an end. But even on this one, we couldn't break it. We couldn't get information. So Billy called in Walsh, the Justice Department. We could not do what you did. We got them fired, but we couldn't get to the end for satisfaction of that one crime. But we got them fired. They were from Texas, and you were the final ones with your compatriots that did this. Thanks a lot. With your background in business, can I keep going? Yeah. With your background in
Don't stop now.
Well, I noticed Vince, I'd done him, he fell asleep. But your background, your financial integrity, your commitment to making sure every dollar is used efficiently, making sure it's used effectively. You're going to do great there, but in your spare time, since you've done so much, I think you should send your resume to Washington, D.C. to replace Elon Musk. And, I say that because I think Elon, like many people in government, has fallen prey to that beautiful but yet sad ballad by Johnny Lee, "Looking for Love in All the Wrong Places." You take one of my favorite agencies, the Consumer Financial Protection. I meant to mention that about you. It parallels your work. It was the most proud votes I ever put on. But you take USAID, which I feel, along with the State Department, is our front line of defense. And they've demolished it. But I don't think they understand what it does. You take Myanmar. That junta took over. And when they took over about 5 years ago, USAID, through a quiet line of funding, stayed there and got out over 1,000 people, like refugee response, got them out that were on the headhunters list of the junta, so that if they did come back, they wouldn't forget us. But when that earthquake happened in February, and 5,000 were left homeless, 3,500 died, we had 3 USAID people who landed on the ground within 24 hours, sort of like the FEMA that arrives initially to handle everything coming. And we announced $2 million were sent there, or were going to be sent. As of today, you can't find a database that shows that. Because I counted after 3 agencies, 65 that have been closed, archived, or just not even kept up to date, including USAIDs. And so the $2 million never showed up. What did show up was $6.5 million, along with 600 workers from China with heavy equipment to help out, as they realign themselves closer and closer with that country, because they want to continue to build a deep water port in the Bay of Bombay that will match the one they just completed in Cambodia, where its aircraft carrier can sit, purposely sit for that, which matches their naval base in Djibouti. And so, in my mind, I think that this administration is painfully unaware that America's strongest power is its power to convene, to bring together peoples and nations of this world in a common cause. It's what we have done ever since World War II to prevent having a third world war, building hundreds of multilateral organizations in health, in education, in technology, including 75 defense agreements, treaties, and coalitions that won the third Cold War against the Soviet Union without firing a shot at it. We lit a flame of justice in a global accord, in a rules-based world order, based upon our universal values that made us all, for those who joined that, safer, stronger, healthier, more literate, and therefore more prosperous. And to watch that be dissipated today is one of the most harmful things because you don't notice it day in and day out. But that to me is one of the more harmful things that I think has been occurring. And so, and if I could just stay for a moment on this ability to understand, do I have to end?
No, but I think a lot of people want to get a chance to talk to you, so.
Okay, I can stop right here. No,
You can say something about Sadiq,
what?
Oh, no.
my man.
Do you want me to go to him or Richard?
Oh, well, Richard, Richard. Where's Richard?
So let me jump to,
Yeah.
Richard, do you mind?
Say something, he's gonna say something nice about you, you mind? No.
Do you mind just very quickly, then just Sadiq, I just want to say that, thank God we're going to have somebody who's represented the working man all the time in the
Right.
city council. And I say that because I don't just mean unions. Because AFL-CIO preamble to its constitution makes it very clear that their mission is to improve the lives of all working families. And I believe that we Democrats have lost too much of the working family, in particularly in the rurals. We tend to forget that they're the ones who gave us the energy for 150 years. They're the ones who gave us the agriculture for 150 years. And they're the ones who give us their youth for war. Still today, 14 states give us 42% of all our recruits. And they haven't forgotten that. And so therefore, sometimes when we seem singularly focused on forgiving college loans,
Right.
we tend to forget about the kid who has lost their tractor job. But when he wants to get another tractor job, you can't because the corporations are gobbling up the farm phones and all their tractors are autonomous. And I just wanted to say that we have got to be able to remember them. And I think we need to do much better at it, and people who can talk with them and to remember them. If I could switch over to Samar,
Sadiq.
Sadiq, come on.
I'm right here, sir.
Yeah, sir, VD, sir, you have
Serving
service and service.
Yes.
You know, you've done law enforcement, quite
Absolutely.
varied industries. You've been there, you've done it, brother. Let me tell you, thank you. for
Thank
your
you.
service. And I say that because the greatest thing about being a congressman
Yes,
is
sir.
you can invite yourself anywhere.
Absolutely.
So I called up Mike Chitwood, head of Upper Darby Police, said, I want to ride with the Upper Darby Police during the mid-wash. So 1 o'clock in the morning, there we are.
There you go.
And I'm driving along. And all of a sudden, this drunk guy's going back and forth. He pulls into this parking lot after the siren goes off. And all of a sudden, he starts getting out of his car. And the guy was ready, police officer. Sir, stay in your car. And the guy gets out, and he's a humongous guy. He starts turning around like this. Stay in your car. And my hair's going up on the back of my neck. I've had it happen twice to me. Once in an F-14 in the back seat where I was pretending I was going to be Goose. And all of a sudden, we're 150 feet over the desert, he turns upside down. I said, you want to do that again? I said, no. No, I said, yes. I haven't tried. And the other time I was in Iraq, beginning of the war. And I didn't do anything extraordinary. I just had to do some SEALs for 2 quick missions. And we had to cross this field that we didn't know had been cleared, but we knew there had mines there once. And my daughter had been only born 5 months earlier. And all I could think about is, Lord, just get me out of here. But I didn't go up as much as that night I saw that police officer do that. But ratchet ahead to a 3-leg squirrel. When I walked across New Hampshire, it was easy to do because I didn't have Schumer calling me. Was that and I meant that with respect. I just don't think someone from a boy from Brooklyn could tell someone how to run a campaign in Pennsylvania. But I went to a mental hospital, a mental facility. And in one room they had as large as this wall, covered with unit badges of people who were in the armed services. He took me to another room and there was as many badges for law enforcement, first responders. PSTD is not discriminatory. It's against black, and you know what I'm talking about. So I want to say thanks. Thank you very much. So as I am, because Jack's on my butt, is Jack, we're too close, right? Now you see why I never made it. But as I close, I want to say this, if I could. One of the neatest phone calls I ever got, and I used to get on my business card, I always had my cell phone. I don't think people knew it was my cell, because I had business phone and cell under it. But I used to go to Grady Ford Maximum Security Prison, which is now Phoenix, I understand. Every Veterans Day. It's been about 2-3 hours up there with the vets there. And I'm out there running for president. And the phone rings. Because the inmates did call me. And I'm out there, and the voice comes on. I'll never forget his voice. And he said, "Hey, Joe, the guys have heard you're running for president. They want you to know we're going to organize Philadelphia for you." I had no doubt they would have if I could have gotten to Pennsylvania. That said, what that phone call showed to me is that the same thing that mom showed who lost her son in county jail, the same thing, at least in my mind, that those Cheney University's students showed when they said we have disgraceful dormitory rooms, which are their homes. And the same thing those 85-year-old couple showed that we're losing their home. That the unique thing we have in America still today, I would argue, is a political construct that gives people a sense of possibility. That a belief something can be done, a feeling that something can still be accomplished, but all they need is someone to answer their interest. And I say that because I believe, and I just hope this time it isn't another false prophet, because I believe that's the story of America, its endurance. It's of leaders who arose at such a time like this that kept the United States of America united. George Washington, that would cloak himself in his cloak around him, and would actually literally lay on the ground alongside his troops on the most frigid Valley Forge days, when he created the first medal in the United States Army, American Army, I should say back then. He said only an enlisted man could earn it, because he wanted to show the way to the top was open to everyone. And when he became president, he rode to the Deep South because they were opposed to Alexander Hamilton's bill. And if he hadn't taken the time to try to understand their interest, and at least through his character and listening to them, if he hadn't done that, Hamilton never would have starred on Broadway. And you take President, you take Lincoln of the squiggly legs. He forgave hundreds of squiggly legs, but his character was such, and people knew, somehow he let people know him, that when Robert E. Lee's son was captured, and he was fearful his son would be hung by the Union troops in their anger about what was happening in the war, he went to Jefferson Davis and asked him to call Lincoln and say, "Please ask Lincoln to save my son." And all Jefferson Davis said was, "There's no need." Lincoln would never do that. A man who actually received a letter from a 12-year-old girl who recommended that he grow a beard, and so he did. And went to meet her on the train to his inauguration. And finally, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, as I really do wrap with a few more, 2-3 more things. And I dropped 45 minutes of this. And is at the end, is Frank Delano the best story I've ever heard of him, and how he somehow knew how to tell people that he knew them, was when a reporter saw his casket drop going by in a southern town. And after it passed, he saw a black man weeping. And he went over to him and said, "You must have known the president." And he said, "No." but he knew me. And you know the story. I'll end with the last two paragraphs in my mind is, I believe that's what we need today. It isn't just a politician who has well-crafted rhetoric, is too long-winded, or knows policy. It is someone who can actually somehow let all people know that he or she knows them. And that he or she will actually talk to them with their interest, even when they disagree. Just like George Washington went to the Deep South when he was sick and ill, to actually show through his character and through his understanding he needed to listen, that he saved the United States of America at its first major crisis, much like we have to do today. And to show you that my little politician actually knew me. After I lost my first Senate race, she went with me to each of the, not each, but a lot of these 67 counties to say thank you, particularly if we go by Hershey Park. And I'm standing there and I'm saying, thank you everybody to it. And somebody said, what do you intend to do now? And I said, I don't know. Perhaps I'll be a Walmart greeter. And she says, oh no, Daddy. Nobody will ever get into Walmart.
I added that one for Jack. But thank you. But always remember, she was human nature at its most raw in politics.